The alien's mockery. The alien warlord stood inside the command chamber of his flagship. The walls glowed with pale blue lights, and the giant window revealed the endless black sea of space. His fleet stretched far in every direction, hundreds of warships, armored cruisers, and massive carriers. Their weapons gleamed, their shields shimmered, and their engines left trails of burning light behind them. It was a show of power, a storm of metal ready to crush anything in its path. The warlord laughed, his sharp teeth shining. His voice echoed across the chamber. "Humans do not use superweapons," he said with pride. "They fight with small guns, with weak ships, with simple tools. They are nothing but insects pretending to be warriors. And today I will burn their courage into ash." The officers around him laughed as well. Their voices carried the same cruel tone. Every one of them had grown up hearing stories of human defiance, stories of humans refusing to kneel. But to them, those were only myths. For centuries, their empire had crushed smaller races. To them, humanity was no different. Weak, primitive, doomed. But outside the great window, a different picture began to form. At the edge of space, near a pale blue star, human ships appeared. They were fewer in number, smaller in size. They moved quietly, almost like shadows. There were no grand formations, no dazzling lights, just silence and discipline. They looked like prey walking into the lion's den. The alien warlord narrowed his eyes. "So this is the great human fleet? This is what the galaxy whispers about? Pathetic. Their ships are like toys, their weapons no bigger than sparks. Look at them, they are afraid." His generals nodded. One leaned closer and said, "It will be a short battle, Commander. They cannot stand against our power." The warlord smiled, his sharp horns curving above his head. "No, it will not be a battle. It will be a lesson. When we finish, there will be no more whispers about human courage. Only silence." Inside the human fleet, there was no laughter. Their command bridge was calm, almost too calm. The captain of the human flagship stood with hands behind his back. His crew watched him with steady eyes. They did not speak of fear, and they did not speak of defeat. They waited. The alien warlord noticed the silence. It angered him. "Why do they not speak?" he growled. "Why do they not shout or beg? Where is their panic?" A younger officer tried to ease his temper. "They are frozen, Commander. They know they cannot win. Let us strike first and finish them." But before the order could be given, a single human ship moved. It was smaller than the rest, grey and plain, almost invisible against the stars. Slowly it drifted forward, placing itself between the two fleets. The alien warlord laughed louder. "One ship! This is their answer. One fragile ship against the might of an empire. Let them come. Let them try." The human ship charged its weapon. Lights glowed across its hull, faint but sharp. The aliens watched with cruel smiles. To them it looked weak. To them it looked like desperation. The warlord raised his hand. "Fire first," he ordered. "Let us end their foolish game." But before his fleet could respond, the human ship fired. It was not a beam. It was not a missile. It was not anything the aliens had seen before. A pulse of light spread outward, slow at first, then faster than thought. It was a wave, a shock wave that bent space itself. At first, the aliens laughed. The warlord leaned back in his chair. "Is that all? That is their weapon? A ripple of light?" But the laughter died within seconds. The wave hit the first line of alien ships. Hulls bent and cracked without a single direct strike. Shields shattered as if made of glass. Entire cruisers broke apart, their bodies torn by invisible hands. Flames burst inside the darkness of space. The warlord's smile froze. The officer's eyes widened. The wave moved on, tearing through the second line of ships. Explosions filled the void. Screams echoed through comms. Half of the fleet was gone, wiped away in silence. The alien warlord gripped his chair. His mouth opened, but no words came out. All he could do was stare at the burning field where his armada once stood. The humans had fired only once. One ship, one shot, and half his fleet was gone. On the human flagship, the captain spoke at last. His voice was calm, quiet, almost cold. That was a demonstration. Nothing more. The alien warlord's heart pounded. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he had never known before, fear. And as the smoke of destroyed ships drifted across the stars, the galaxy itself seemed to whisper a warning. Humans did not need superweapons. Humans were the weapon. The shot that changed. Everything silence filled the alien flagship. The command chamber, once full of cruel laughter, now felt like a tomb. Smoke from distant ships lit up the black void of space, broken bodies of warships drifting without power. The warlord's eyes stayed locked on the view outside. His claws gripped the armrests so hard the metal bent beneath them. Half his fleet was gone. Not from a missile strike, not from a beam of fire, but from a single ripple in space. The destruction had been clean, brutal, and absolute. No defense system had even registered the attack until it was too late. The warlord turned his head slowly toward his generals. Their faces were pale, their mouths open, but none of them spoke. They were warriors who had marched through countless battles, yet not one of them understood what they had just witnessed. "What was that?" the warlord whispered. No one answered. The youngest officer finally gathered courage. His voice shook as he said, "Commander, their ship, it only fired once." The words sank into the chamber like poison. Only once. And yet, half the armada was gone. The warlord roared, his anger covering his fear. "That cannot be a weapon. It is impossible. Weapons destroy with fire, with speed, with impact, not with waves that tear ships apart without touching them." He slammed his fist against the console. "Find me an answer." His science chief worked quickly, screens flickering with data. His voice was thin and nervous when he finally spoke. "Commander, the energy spike was unlike anything in our records. It did not cut. It did not burn. It bent the space around our ships. The shockwave itself was the strike. It was not force in the normal sense. It was something far worse." The chamber grew colder. The warlord turned back toward the window. The human fleet had not moved. They did not chase the survivors, did not press the attack. They simply waited, their small ships floating silently in perfect formation. The single ship that fired stood at the front, calm and still, as if daring the aliens to try again. The warlord's fangs showed as he growled. "They are mocking us. They destroyed half our strength with one shot, and now they wait for us to crawl closer, like prey stepping into a trap." One of his generals, voice trembling, asked, "Shall we retreat, Commander?" The warlord spun around, his horns casting long shadows across the chamber. "Retreat? Against humans? Never. If we run now, the galaxy will whisper that we fled from insects. Our empire will lose respect. No, we will regroup. We will crush them." But even as he spoke, the warlord's eyes betrayed doubt. On the human flagship, the captain gave no order to advance. He simply stood, calm as stone, watching the burning remains of the enemy fleet. His crew exchanged glances, but none spoke. They had expected this. They had trained for this. To them, the destruction was not a surprise. A message came through, the voice of the alien warlord, filled with fury. "Human commander, what trick is this? What kind of coward weapon bends space itself? Show yourself, face us with honor." The human captain let the silence stretch before answering. His words were slow and measured. "That was not a trick. That was restraint. You saw what one shot can do. Imagine what will happen if we do not hold back." The alien warlord's heart sank. Restraint. The word echoed in his mind like a curse. If this was restraint, then what was true force? His officers whispered among themselves. Some demanded retreat, others begged for negotiation. The warlord silenced them with a glare, but deep inside the same thoughts burned. The human captain spoke again, his tone colder than the void. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek to rule. But we will not kneel. We will not bow. You brought your armada to destroy us. You laughed at our strength, and now you have seen the truth. Leave now and live. Stay, and you will not leave at all. The alien warlord's claws dug deeper into the chair. The message ended, and silence returned. For the first time, the Empire's soldiers felt a shadow they had never known. Fear. The kind of fear that does not fade with courage. Fear of something greater. Something beyond their understanding. The warlord raised his voice, but even anger could not hide the crack of doubt. Prepare the second wave. Send in the heavy cruisers. They will drown these humans in fire. But his generals hesitated. None moved. None wanted to follow an order that could lead them into death. One general, older than the rest, finally spoke. "Commander, what if they are not lying? What if that was mercy?" The warlord turned sharply. "Mercy?" The general nodded. "They fired once and then stopped. If they wished, they could have ended us all. But they did not. Perhaps they are warning us. Perhaps they want us to live." The warlord's chest tightened. His empire had ruled for centuries, never showing mercy, never receiving it. And yet here stood a race the galaxy mocked as weak, sparing an armada that had come to destroy them. It was unthinkable. It was terrifying. Outside the window, the human fleet still waited, silent and patient. The stars seemed to burn brighter around them, as if space itself respected their presence. The warlord lowered his voice, almost speaking to himself. "One shot, one ship, and half my fleet is gone." He could not stop his hands from shaking, and somewhere deep in his heart he knew the truth. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had revealed a glimpse of its power, and this was only the beginning. The fear begins. The battlefield was silent now, but silence did not bring peace. It brought something heavier, something that pressed on the alien fleet like a chain. Fear. The wreckage of ships floated across the dark, their burning frames glowing faint red against the stars. The survivors watched in disbelief, each soldier unable to understand how one human ship had destroyed so much with so little. Inside the alien flagship, the warlord sat frozen. His pride had been his weapon, his laughter his shield, but both were gone. Now only doubt remained. He had believed humans were weak, too weak to use superweapons. Now he feared they were something far worse, strong enough to never need them. One of his generals spoke at last. His voice was hollow. "Commander, this cannot be ignored. The humans, they should not be able to do this." The warlord glared. "You think I do not know that? You think I cannot see what is before my eyes?" The general stepped back, but his words did not stop. "I have heard the whispers, old stories hidden in archives, warnings left by races long gone. They spoke of humans, Commander. They said humanity carries a danger unlike any other. Perhaps those stories were not myths." The chamber grew colder. Other officers exchanged uneasy glances. They too had heard pieces of those forgotten tales, passed as legends to frighten young cadets. Stories of humans who fought with impossible fury, who never surrendered, who could turn even the simplest tool into a weapon of war. The Empire had dismissed those stories as superstition. Now none dared laugh. The warlord slammed his claws against the console. "Do not bring me ghost tales. Facts, I demand facts. Our empire has crushed worlds for centuries. No one has ever stood against us. Why should humans be different?" But even as he shouted, his voice shook. He could not erase the image of ships, breaking apart under a wave that was not even meant to kill. Another officer whispered, almost too quietly. "Perhaps they were holding back." The warlord turned sharply. "What did you say?" The officer swallowed hard. "Perhaps that single shot was not their full power. Perhaps it was only a warning." The words fell like a blade. The chamber went still. If this was mercy, then what would full force look like? On the human flagship, The crew worked in silence. Reports came in tracking the shattered enemy fleet, watching their movements, but the human captain did not smile. His face was calm, eyes sharp. To him, this was not victory, it was control. Humanity did not need to destroy all to prove its strength. One demonstration was enough. The captain turned to his crew. They will fear us now, but fear alone will not end this war. The galaxy must learn why we fight. The officers nodded. They had seen this before, in smaller battles across the stars. Every empire laughed at humans at first. Every empire thought of them as latecomers, as a young race with nothing but stubbornness. And every empire that tested that belief learned how wrong they were. On the alien flagship, panic grew. Messages flooded in from surviving ships. Desperate calls, broken signals, screams of soldiers who had never known fear until this day. The warlord listened in silence, his pride burning away with each word. His fleet was no longer an army, it was prey. He leaned forward, his horns casting long shadows. "They are only humans," he whispered to himself. "Only humans. How can this be?" The older general stepped closer. His voice was heavy, filled with years of knowledge. "Commander, you do not understand. That is the mistake every race has made. They are not only humans. They are the storm the galaxy has tried to forget. And now the storm has awakened." The warlord's hands shook, but he would not admit it. "Then we will fight harder. We will not bow to insects." But deep in his chest, the truth was already clear. Bowing or not, his empire had stepped into something far greater than itself. Humanity had shown a glimpse of power, and that glimpse had broken them. Outside, the human fleet remained silent, waiting, unshaken. They had no need to shout. Their silence itself was the loudest threat of all, and across the galaxy, whispers began. Messages carried to distant systems, to the council chambers of mighty empires. Whispers that said the same thing in 1,000 tongues. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is not simple. Humanity is dangerous. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt something it thought was long gone. Fear of a race no one had truly understood. Fear of the humans. The galaxy reacts. The battle was over, but its echo did not die. Across the galaxy, signals carried the story faster than light. Messengers rushed into council chambers, diplomats whispered behind closed doors, and commanders stared at empty screens in disbelief. One human ship had fired a single shot, and half an alien armada was gone. No one had seen such destruction before. No one had believed it was possible. In the council halls of the great empires, leaders gathered in panic. Their chambers, once filled with arrogance, now trembled with fear. Screens replayed the moment again and again, the ripple of light, the sudden collapse of ships, the silence after the storm. Each time they watched, silence followed. A scaled diplomat from the Zrith Dominion leaned forward, his voice shaking. "They said humans were weak. They said humans could not stand against a true empire. But look at this. Look at what they have done." A cold-blooded minister hissed in reply. "It was one ship, one weapon. Perhaps it was luck." But even as he spoke, his eyes betrayed his fear. Luck could not erase half a fleet. Luck could not bend space itself. An elder from the Yalith Syndicate struck the table with his claw. "We told you long ago. The records of the ancients warned of this. Humanity is not to be pushed. Humanity is not to be cornered. You all laughed at the old stories, but they were true, and now we face the storm we ignored." The chamber grew tense. Some shouted for war, others for peace, but none could deny the truth. Humanity had revealed a weapon beyond imagination, and the galaxy was not ready. In distant academies, students studied the footage in silence. Some tried to explain it with science, others with myth. Professors shook their heads, unable to agree. Was it technology? Was it something deeper? None could answer. The mystery grew, and with it the fear. Merchants in starports whispered as they loaded their ships. "Did you hear? The humans destroyed an entire fleet with one blast." "No, not destroyed. Shattered like paper." If they can do that to an armada, what chance does anyone have? Even the criminal underworld, smugglers and warlords began to change their tone. They had mocked humans before, calling them naive explorers. Now they kept their voices low, as if speaking too loudly might draw the attention of Earth itself. On the human homeworld, leaders met in secret. Their voices were calm but firm. The captain who had ordered the shot stood before them, reporting. With steady eyes, "We showed them only what was necessary, no more, no less." One elder leaned forward. "And did they learn the lesson?" The captain nodded. "Yes, they learned to fear us, but fear is a dangerous tool. It may bring peace, or it may bring greater war." Another leader spoke softly. "The galaxy now knows we hold power. They will not ignore us again. Some will seek alliance, others will plan revenge. We must prepare for both." And so humanity began to move quietly. Fleets were trained, soldiers sharpened their skills, engineers worked in silence on projects hidden from the stars. Earth was no longer a backwater world. Earth was now the shadow on every empire's mind. Back in the council chambers, debates grew hotter. Some demanded immediate action against humanity. "We must crush them now, before they rise further," one shouted. Others argued the opposite. "No, to strike them again is to invite our end. We must open talks. We must find peace before it is too late." But one thing united them all: fear. Not respect, not trust, only fear. For centuries the galaxy had believed it held power over humans. Now the galaxy knew the truth. In the farthest colonies, children whispered stories before sleep. Humans do not need superweapons. Humans are superweapons. And the stories spread, faster than fleets, faster than fire. The warlord who had mocked humanity sat alone in his flagship. His empire demanded answers, demanded he explain his defeat. But he had no words. His once proud eyes stared into the void, haunted by the memory of that single wave. His empire called him a fool, but deep inside he knew the truth. No commander alive could have faced humanity and won. The galaxy had changed. The balance of power was broken. And as the whispers spread, one truth echoed louder than all. Humanity had shown mercy, but mercy had its limit. The galaxy did not fear what humans had done. The galaxy feared what humans had not yet done. The human resolve. The galaxy had begun to whisper, but on Earth there was no whisper. There was only resolve. In hidden war rooms beneath the surface of the planet, leaders gathered around vast tables of light, their eyes sharp and unshaken. News of the destroyed alien fleet had reached them, but no one celebrated. To them, it was not victory. It was only survival. The human admiral who commanded the demonstration stood before the council. His uniform was scorched from the battle, but his voice was calm. "They saw a single strike," he said. "Half their ships vanished, and yet they still circle us like vultures. They will not stop. Not today. Not tomorrow. The empires of the stars will not forget humiliation. They will come again." The leaders nodded. One of them, an older woman with a voice that carried weight, leaned forward. "And what did you learn?" The admiral's eyes hardened. "I learned that they still believe we are weak. Even after their defeat, they tell themselves it was luck. They will try again. And when they do, we must show them what humanity truly is." Silence followed his words, heavy but steady. These were not leaders of conquest, not rulers who longed for empires. They were guardians of a species that had climbed from mud and fire, that had endured wars, famine, and the cold of space. They had not chosen this fight, but they would finish it if forced. Far from Earth, in colonies scattered across stars, humans stood taller than before. Soldiers drilled with new discipline. Engineers worked late into the endless night, forging weapons no one had yet seen. Pilots studied tactics, not for glory, but for survival. Across the colonies, a single thought grew strong. Never again would humanity be mocked, never again would they be dismissed. Meanwhile, in the alien council chambers, fear twisted into anger. Many empires debated openly, some demanded revenge, others whispered about peace. But beneath every speech was the same truth. None trusted humans anymore. None dared underestimate them. The warlord who had once mocked humanity returned to his throne world, but he was no longer the same. His empire called him a coward, called him broken, but he knew better. He had seen what none of them understood. He had seen the mercy of humanity, and mercy from such a force was more terrifying than death itself. In secret meetings, spies brought news. They told of human fleets training in silence, of projects hidden under layers of secrecy. They spoke of scientists who whispered of weapons beyond imagination. The council grew restless. If this was restraint, what would it look like when humans chose not to restrain? On Earth, the Admiral spoke once more to his council. His words were clear. "We do not fight for conquest. We fight for survival. If they come, we will not strike first, but when they strike, we will end it, and the galaxy will remember why humans endure." The leaders stood with him. They understood what the galaxy did not. Humanity was not powerful because of weapons, not because of ships. Humanity was powerful because it refused to break. Every empire that tried to crush them only gave them more reason to rise. In the black silence of space, human fleets began to move, not with noise, not with fire, but with discipline. The stars themselves seemed to wait, as if holding their breath. The galaxy now lived with a shadow that carried both promise and warning. And somewhere beyond all the fear and whispers, humanity itself carried one truth deep inside. They had shown only a glimpse. The first strike was mercy. But mercy had limits. If forced again, the galaxy would see not a glimpse, but the storm. The warlord sat alone in his chamber, haunted by the memory of his burning fleet. He had once laughed at the thought of human weapons. Now, every time he closed his eyes, he saw the wave that shattered his armada. He knew the truth better than anyone. The humans had not even begun to fight. The galaxy had learned fear, but the humans had found their resolve, and in that resolve lay a power greater than any superweapon. The unshakable will of a species that would never bow.